I'm Grace Daniel, and you're watching the U.S. Crime Files. Today's episode takes us deep into three unsettling cases, each very different on the surface, yet connected by betrayal, secrecy, and unanswered questions. From a blood-stained apartment in Las Vegas to the sun-soaked beaches of California hiding a deadly conspiracy, and finally, to a courtroom battle in Florida that's raising eyebrows across the country. These are stories that remind us how quickly ordinary lives can spiral into darkness. Let's begin in Las Vegas, Nevada, a city known for bright lights, fast money, and endless reinvention. But behind the glamour of the Strip lies a much darker reality. The Las Vegas double murder. It was a scene detectives would not soon forget. Inside a modest apartment, police discovered the bodies of two young people, a boyfriend and girlfriend, both shot in the head. There were no signs of forced entry, no immediate suspects, just silence, shock, and a long list of unanswered questions. At first glance, investigators considered the possibility of a murder-suicide. It's a conclusion often reached when couples are found dead together. But this case didn't fit that narrative for long. Very quickly, police realized this was something far more calculated. This was an execution-style killing. The victims were Sydney Land and Nehemiah "Neo" Kaufman. Sydney was everything people expect when they imagine an all-American girl. She grew up in a quiet suburban neighborhood. She was kind, bright, and ambitious, with dreams of one day working in pediatrics. Friends describe her as gentle and trusting, someone who saw the best in people, even when they didn't deserve it. Her mother, Connie, remembers a daughter who wanted to help others and build a stable future, but Sydney's life took a sharp turn when she met Neo. Neo Kaufman was once a promising high school basketball player, admired for his talent on the court. But off the court, his life followed a very different path. By his early 20s, Neo had a criminal record that included burglary, drug offenses, and ties to sex trafficking. To those closest to Sydney, Neo was a walking red flag. Connie never trusted him. She recalls noticing that Neo didn't have a car, didn't have steady income, and relied heavily on Sydney. She was driving him everywhere, Connie later said. I felt like he was taking advantage of her. Despite her family's concerns, Sydney stayed with Neo, and gradually her life began to change. Friends noticed her pulling away. Her priorities shifted, and soon she was introduced to a dangerous lifestyle involving prostitution, surrounded by people who blurred the line between survival and exploitation. One of those people was Sydney's high school friend, Frankie. Frankie's transformation was dramatic. Once shy and insecure, she reinvented herself completely, changing her appearance, her confidence, and her lifestyle. She became popular, connected, and deeply involved in the same risky world Sydney had entered. After the murders, many who knew Sydney believed Frankie knew more than she was saying. But Frankie never spoke publicly, and police couldn't compel her to. As detectives dug deeper, they discovered Neo had enemies, people with reasons to want him dead. One name rose above the rest: Shane Valentine, a man with a violent history and past conflicts with Neo. But suspicion alone wasn't enough. There was no weapon, no eyewitness, no confession. And so the case stalled. Melissa McCarty, who followed the investigation closely, summed up the frustration many felt. I know she knows who did it. To this day, the murders of Sydney Land and Nehemiah Kaufman remain unsolved. A bright young woman with dreams of helping children lost her life alongside a man whose past may have sealed both their fates. And somewhere out there, someone knows the truth. Paradise hides a plot. Huntington Beach. Next, we travel west to Huntington Beach, California. At first glance, this story looks nothing like the one in Las Vegas. Here we find sunshine, surfboards, and a famous family deeply rooted in California's surfing culture. The Taylor family was well known, successful, respected, and admired by many. To the outside world, they had it all. But behind closed doors, something far darker was unfolding. Jane Doe, whose identity remains protected, married into the Taylor family, believing she was stepping into a dream. She became the wife of Matt Taylor, a man raised in a family built on success, legacy, and image. But the dream didn't last long. Jane says her marriage quickly turned controlling and frightening. Matt's behavior became abusive, and his father, John Taylor, reinforced a culture of silence and intimidation within the family. Jane felt trapped. When she tried to leave, things escalated in ways she never imagined. She later said, "I was terrified. I stayed silent because every threat felt too real." Those threats weren't empty. Unbeknownst to Jane, a murder-for-hire plot was forming, one that involved Matt's brother Joe Taylor and a family friend named Travis. The plan was simple and chilling: make Jane disappear. Travis, however, hesitated. Fear and guilt caught up with him, and he made a decision that would save Jane's life. He went to the police. What followed was a carefully planned undercover operation. Detectives wired Travis and arranged conversations designed to confirm Joe's intent. During those conversations, Joe allegedly made it clear Jane needed to be eliminated. Permanently. Hatla Lama, who reported on the case, described the moment investigators knew they had enough. "You want her gone? Do whatever it takes. I don't want to see her again." Police moved in. Joe Taylor was arrested, along with John, Matt, and Travis. The arrest sent shockwaves through the surfing community. In the end, only Joe Taylor was convicted. Jane survived, but survival came at a cost. Today, she lives with ongoing fear, always looking over her shoulder. Yet she remains determined to protect her children and rebuild a life free from control and violence. Her story is a reminder that even in paradise, danger can hide behind perfect smiles. A dog, a courtroom, and a controversial ruling. Our final story takes us to Florida, and while it doesn't involve murder, it has sparked intense debate across the legal world. At the center of this case is a Labrador retriever. Tina Marie Walker believed she was the dog's sole owner. The dog was registered in her name. She paid for food, housing, and care. But when she went to work, her neighbor David Somerville often looked after the dog. Over time, David grew attached. He began paying veterinary bills. He spent hours caring for the dog, and eventually he claimed something few people expect to hear in court. He wanted joint custody. David argued that his caregiving role gave him parental-like rights. Tina disagreed, stating the dog was legally hers and that kindness did not equal ownership. The judge surprised many by ruling in favor of shared custody. The decision ignited controversy. Legal experts questioned whether this ruling could set a dangerous precedent. Could neighbors now claim rights to pets simply by helping out? Where does ownership end and emotional attachment begin? Tina has appealed the ruling, insisting the law must be clear and consistent. The case continues to raise difficult questions about modern pet ownership and how the law should adapt without opening the door to endless disputes. 3 stories. 3 very different cases. Yet each one reveals the same truth. Lives can unravel quietly, often behind closed doors, long before the public ever notices. From an unsolved double murder in Las Vegas, to a deadly betrayal hidden behind a surfing dynasty, to a courtroom battle that challenges legal boundaries. These are the stories we bring you on the U.S. Crime Files. If you found this episode insightful, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue uncovering the truth behind the headlines. I'm Grace Daniel. Thank you for watching and stay safe.